Welcome to Hiero Exclusive. I'm Andrew Lay, CEO of Hiero Graphics. Entrepreneurship taught me most of what I know the hard way, and over time I realized I wasn't alone. That's the idea behind this podcast. We explore how entrepreneurs and operators make real decisions and what they learn when theory meets reality. Because behind every company, every investment, every outcome, there's a life story. And inside those stories are patterns that can help the next generation of builders move faster and think better. Here's one pattern worth paying attention to. Most people think startup investing is about picking winners, but talk to anyone who's actually done it at scale and you'll hear a little different story. It is about managing risk, learning through failure, and building conviction over time. Today's guest has lived that reality from a unique angle. Dave Romenesko spent decades as a chemist and inventor at Dow Corning, contributing to dozens of patents and working at the front edge of material science. Then he stepped into a completely different arena, angel investing, where instead of building products, he was evaluating the people and ideas behind them. Over time, he has invested across dozens of startups, experienced significant failures along the way, and developed a perspective on diligence, risk, and portfolio strategy that only comes from being in it. In this conversation, we explore what those experiences taught him, how he evaluates opportunities, what founders often misunderstand about investors, and how failure shapes better decision-making over time. This is a look inside the mind of an angel investor, not in theory, but in practice. Let's get into it. Dave, thank you for being here. Welcome to Hiero Exclusive.
Pleasure.
So you spent 31 years, I believe, inventing materials at Dow Corning and accumulated dozens of patents. What made you decide to move from building technology to investing in companies?
Well, I was in the new ventures business for a vast majority of my 31 years at Dow Corning. So what is a new venture? Well, it's a startup. But we at Dow Corning, we were working in what we called intrapreneuring, not entrepreneuring, but intrapreneuring.
Okay.
Creating new materials and businesses within a sizable company.
Okay.
Dow Corning was at that time was around $4 billion in sales annually, and that would be called a mid-cap company in the parlance of investing. But it's important to continue to grow. And one of the things that I like to pay attention to was that what's the difference between Dow and Dow Corning?
Mm-hmm.
When I came into Dow Corning in 1974, it was about a $250 million company, and Dow Chemical was 10 times larger. And when I retired in 2004, it was still 10 times larger.
Okay.
But Dow Corning grew internally. That is, we developed and created businesses internally. Dow Chemical, sadly, became a financial chemical company who bought and sold companies and grew by acquisition. They used to be a great chemical innovator. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they're pretty sizable, so they still innovate, but that's not their driving case.
I see.
Dow Corning, before Dow Chemical took them,
right?
They absorbed them in 2016. But before that, Dow Corning was always building things internally.
Okay.
So Dow Corning actually never acquired any substantial company until actually they acquired Multibase, which is a plastics compounder, and they acquired it. Cost $100 million. They acquired it because my team asked to acquire it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my team was the one who had in any kind of acquisition, Dow Corning, the largest one was Multibase. $100 million.
So when that type of acquisition is made from a material science perspective, which is where your background is that because you're trying to collaborate with that material, some type of intellectual property they own that is what you want to collaborate with? That would be the motive behind the acquisition?
Not really. Remember, I was in a new ventures business, so my job, my remit was to invent things and build businesses.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The sub goal for that was to use the materials already existing at Dow Corning, use them in new ways, in new markets, and therefore you expand the sales structure of Dow Corning with less capital or research investment. Mm. So I was taking already existing materials. That multi-base thing, for instance, its primary material was what we call silicone gums, which are ultra-high molecular weight yet liquid materials, mm-hmm. and we emulsified those into thermoplastics to create lubricated materials. We made what we call master batches. That was the realm number one. Mm-hmm. My ultimate goal, which came from a failed experiment, but that was to create thermoplastic elastomers. The failed experiment was looking at impact modification of engineering thermoplastics, mm-hmm. and you create how does impact change with concentration of the internal phase, and maybe that sounds a little goofy. So milk is an emulsion. Milk is an emulsion of butterfat in water. Okay. And cows, of course, manufacture that.
Sure.
And it's white because they're small droplets in which have been homogenized. You know, you hear pasteurized and homogenized vitamin D milk. Well, the homogenized part of it is to take that butterfat in sizable globules. Remember, in the old days, you get the milk out of a cow. It settles.
Mm-hmm. The cream at the top.
Cream at the top, exactly. And that's because the density of the cream is less than the density of the continuous phase, mostly water. Anyway, when you homogenize it, you send it through a piece of equipment and it drops the particle size so that the particles of butterfat will continuously bounce off one another and stay non-stratified. Mm. That's why the milk doesn't settle in your refrigerator. In any event, what we used a twin screw extruder to take that liquid gum, mm-hmm. ultra-high molecular weight silicone gum, break it up in the extruder, and we'd have 1 to 3 micron droplets inside a plastic continuous phase, whether it's polycarbonate or polyethylene or styrene or whatever. We could do any thermoplastic. We could make a master batch out of it if the marketplace wanted it, and that was the original business. But in making that impact modification graph, mm-hmm. I noticed that after around 50% of internal silicone rubber inside there, it got elastomeric. And I thought, well, gee, maybe we've got an opportunity here. Hmm. And that then turned into what we call TIPSIVs, thermoplastic siloxane vulcanizate. So TPSIV, SI is silicon, thermoplastic silicone vulcanizates called TIPSIVs. Mm-hmm. One of the guys in my team actually, he's a great guy. He was an artist as well and a very creative guy, and he came up with that the insignia for TIPSIVs, and we actually came up with the name while fishing on Lake Michigan with our team as an outing, and had a few beers, and we came up with TIPSIVs. So we didn't pay a marketing person like yourself,
right.
for that.
So
Sorry.
Interesting though, because what you're basically saying here is innovators, you guys would invent something and commonly build the business around that, right? So so what I also find is interesting is I understand part of your story is
I can have a correction to that a
sure.
little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
The market is more important than the material.
Okay,
If you have no market, you could have the best material on God's green earth,
sure.
and it's worthless.
Yeah.
Of only about 7% of patents ever sell anything. So turning science into business was my and my team's mantra.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had a specialty in this, right? You out of how many patents that you had total, how many of those went to market?
So 46 United States patents, and 34 of them
Wow.
had sales.
Okay.
Now,
wow.
whether they continued, that's
Sure.
that's kind of up to the business. Well, it's up to our whole team, but
Yeah.
I don't, they don't consult with me on how well the business is going
right.
these days.
You're moving on to the next material.
exactly.
Right. So, well, here's an interesting one because this bottle right here, so it has that soft element like the Apple Watches have, and I understand that is actually one of your patents that you created while you were there.
That's a TIPSIV. It's an emulsion of silicone rubber, which is the rubber is cured within the extruder. The thermoplastic continues to be molten at temperature. So that is a silicone rubber emulsion inside a thermoplastic polyurethane. The polyurethane is very, very tough, chosen explicitly for its toughness. And the silicone component in there was created because of a desire to see if we could create a business out of that. But the market existed first. That is, the thermoplastic elastomer market already existed. A name called Santoprene.
Now,
existed.
when you say the market existed, is that for the soft touch of the ultimate end product of what people like about this?
That's what ultimately sold it to Apple.
Okay.
But Santoprene is still a thermoplastic elastomer of a butadiene rubber in polypropylene, and that was used in industrial applications. So that market already existed. The question is could we get a piece of that market? But it'd have to be a specialty piece because butadiene and polypropylene are really cheap materials.
Okay.
Silicones and thermoplastic polyurethane are more expensive materials. So the mantra, I had a mantra in my team, the 5 questions of business, and it's features, benefit, value, volume, time to market.
Okay.
You want me to explain that?
Well, I do, but maybe as we journey in here a little bit, because it sounds like that is actually part of the foundation of why you became an angel investor. Because a lot of your job before as a material science guy, and as you said, intrapreneur versus entrepreneur, I assume that's surrounding the invention?
Yes.
That's why it's worded
and the
that
business.
way.
Because our job was to invent and to build businesses.
So when you got into investing, and I understand that you were a startup founder yourself, that you started something called Tempo Wealth, which is more traditional investments, and so you actually built a successful business along the side. But after you left Dow Corning, my apologies. After you left there,
our neighbors call us Corning. Our customers call us Dow. We are Dow Corning.
All right.
I like that.
Right. That's good. That's good. So tell me, I'm sure there were some misperceptions jumping in as you became an angel investor, and there was probably a lot to learn. But what did you expect investing to be like when you started?
You're thinking of startup investing.
Angel investing.
Yeah, angel investing.
Specific.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I was kind of interested in new ventures, if you will. And so basically the concept of new was, almost in my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my 31 years, I think 28 were in the new ventures business. So turning science into business was a lot of fun. I was like a 6-year-old in a sandbox with really expensive Tonka toys.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a normal, way of doing things for me.
Yeah.
Then Ted Skinner, good friend of mine, who he was in the Blue Water Angels, and he invited me to join. Or he said, "Come on, you can be my guest." And they were, making pitches and at that meeting, and all well and good. You see about 50 pitches for maybe one that you might want to, that I might want to invest in. In any event, it was the same concept. You had to. It isn't just the technology or the material; it's the market, the total addressable market. Mm-hmm. How can you enter that market? Mm-hmm. How can you sell in that market? And if these pitches, if they only talk about the technology, which I love it. Don't get me wrong. But if your objective is to grow a business, you have to have a business to grow into. And that's where the total addressable market is. And there has to be a problem to solve. That is your solution, your material must solve that problem.
Right.
And then it has to be solved in a cost-effective manner.
Sure.
There's always competition.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be better than the competition in some important way, not the only way, not in all ways, but an important way to that customer.
Okay.
And that's in the concept of intrapreneuring at Dow Corning. It's the same thing. Mm-hmm. In the concept of investing in startups, it's the same thing.
Okay. So what would you say when you started angel investing? What did you believe about startups that turned out to be wrong? Was there any misconceptions there?
Most of them that failed because they really didn't understand the market.
Okay.
The most of them had a solution, a workable solution, but it was either not cost effective enough, mm-hmm. or the founder was paying too much attention to the product and not enough attention to the market, or they didn't really understand all of the components of building a business. That that overwhelmed them.
Yeah.
So it's. I remember a young man who a friend of mine said, "Would you talk to him? He's got a new idea." I said, "Oh, sure." And his idea was related to transporting sports-like equipment on a vehicle to go up to Aspen or whatever. And clearly there's a market for that. They're all over the place. But he had a good idea, mm-hmm. and he was looking for money from me personally, mm-hmm. or from others.
Sure.
Because all startups are broke.
Right. They're
broke all the time until they're not.
Yeah. Right.
And he wanted money, and I said, "Oh, okay. I'm interested, but tell me, if I gave you $10,000 to help in your business, how much of the company would I own?" And he kind of looked at me puzzled like it. "Well, it's my company. It's not your company." "Yeah, but I'm giving you $10,000.
Right.
That's not the way I want it to work."
Yeah.
"In other words, you want charity."
Right.
I says, "Well, son, that's not the way it works."
Right. Not with everyone else's hard-earned taxed dollar already, right?
Right.
So, I find it interesting. A lot of what you described is a little bit more on the technical side of the business, but you also hinted at a little bit on the personal side of who is running it, what are they focused on, how much when you're evaluating a business opportunity, do you weigh in who is in charge? Or these is the right people or the right team to lead this company? How much does that weigh in on your decision making?
Well, many times startups fail because they don't know how to manage. There's many things associated with building a business.
Yeah,
It's not just the product or the manufacturing or something. It's got to all work from your brain to something that's functional, to something that can be manufactured, to understanding the total addressable market that your product will go in, and how can you enter that market? What are the distribution channels? How are you going to pay those Everybody's got to get paid, right? So how much are you going to give up to those distribution channels? And then precisely what problem are you solving with that product? Mm-hmm. If you're only solving half the problem, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You've got to solve all of the problem.
Right.
So it's a very complicated thing. Every single startup, every single business is different. Otherwise, there'd be lots of business. I mean, sure, there's a lot of chemical companies, mm-hmm. but Dow Corning was in the silicone business. Mm-hmm. Dow Chemical was in the organic chemical business. So Dow Corning was a specialty chemical company in a wide variety of businesses. Personal care, we created a plastics business. I also was part of that personal care business. You've got to solve a lot of problems, mm-hmm. but you have to have the total business structure to get it to the marketplace.
Right. Which includes a lot of those technicals you mentioned, like total addressable market, being able to articulate in a convincing way so that everybody recognizes what that problem is and that you are actually solving it. And then, of course, you mentioned a few things about priorities too, which can be important. So you're kind of touching on a few things of this next question I had, which was, I want to see if there's any commonalities that you see. You mentioned a majority, or not quite a majority, a little under half, my apologies, of the angel investments that you made didn't turn out well. And I guess what I was wondering, is there any patterns that you noticed about the ones that failed? Whether it's founder behavior, market timing, technology readiness, perhaps overall capital requirements?
Most of them failed because they didn't understand their market, or the founder was a poor manager and didn't understand what it takes to grow and sustain a business. Mm-hmm. Now, so I have the way I run these startups. I am physically involved with 10 mm-hmm. of those 36 startups that I've been involved with. All of the others, the remaining 26 are arm's length. That is, it's an idea that had a pitch and it met some criteria, and I was willing to throw a few bucks into it. Mm-hmm. Somebody else was running the SPE, the special purpose entity.
Just to clarify real quick, the SPE is the vehicle that owns, that you invest in, so that there's some type of special management for that investment or requirements.
That's a good segue, because so a company shows up, provides a pitch, and says, "Give me money for 25% of the company."
Sure. Okay.
And that 25% of the company, maybe that's $400,000 or something mm-hmm. like that. Mm-hmm. And investors are interested in it, and they collectively come and they get $400,000, mm-hmm. and they then own 25% of the company. So the company gets that $400,000. The investors, is it all on the line? It's called the cap table, the capitalization table. There's a line, a spreadsheet. Each line has an owner of the company. Most companies don't want to have 5,000 lines right. in their cap table. They would like maybe 50. So the way the angel group works is that the angels organize an SPE, a special purpose entity. When I was in the Blue Water Angels, they would call it BWA ABC Investors LLC. The LLC meaning it's a separate corporation, limited liability corporation, that is a collective of all these angel investors who funnel the money through this SPE group, and you have a CPA to, I never touch money. A CPA handles all the money, puts it on their SPE spreadsheet, and then on the orders of the manager, sends that money to the company. And then there's in mine, it's a 2% fee. BWA had a higher fee, but I'm a old retired guy, so I don't need to get paid.
Sure.
I don't get paid. Anyway, that goes. The money goes to the company, and then the manager manages the information transfer to the investors. So, what I do of the 10 startups that I have SPEs on, which would say Tempo ABC Investors LLC, or Tempo, what is this one? Peptinovo Investors LLC, or Tempo Human Hoist Investors LLC. I manage those, and my objective was to get sufficient information to keep our investors informed. That was one of the main debits of Blue Water Angels, is not enough people were interested in getting enough information to come back to the investors.
Okay.
I didn't like that. And then sadly, when Ken Kuski got ill with Parkinson's and then dementia, and he eventually died, I couldn't wait. Yeah. So I started my own business, Tempo SPE Group, and I was already a manager within Blue Water Angels. So since that was a separate company, the LLC is a separate company, owned by the investors, managed by me, I just then worked a business around that to continue to have investors invest. So I've got, I think it's 109 investors.
Okay. Wow.
In the group.
Yeah.
And that group has delivered not quite $24 million to mostly these 10 startups. There's others involved. I personally, my wife and I would invest in some of these others. Fortunately, she doesn't pay much attention to that. But that's okay. I'm paying attention to it, keeping the checkbook full.
Yeah. So this SPC or SPE, I'm sorry, this I assume would also facilitate a feedback mechanism by you guys accumulating all your stock or ownership together in one piece, so that if there was, as far as voting rights or anything in the corporation that you're invested in, how does that work on an ongoing basis when the investors want to give feedback, sometimes critical to the management running the company?
That's a very good question, because my strategy was always to get on the boards of all of these companies. So of the 10, I'm on 8 boards.
Okay. That's
a full-time job.
Right.
Some of them, each of them are a full-time job. But so for Tempo ABC, ABC means Advanced Battery Concepts. I was a arm's length investor for a while, and then tried my best to get on the board. When a board member left, I was conveniently available. My group, Tempo ABC, owned 20% of the company, so that's a pretty good size.
Right,
I mean, you can get corporate takeovers for 5% of the company.
Yeah.
And so I was on the board, and then Ted Skinner was the manager of the BWA ABC, another 20%, and I got a proxy from him. So there's 40% of the company. And then I got a proxy from an individual investor who had 6% of the company. So now it's 46%.
Right.
So the point of that is that, all of a sudden people will listen to you.
Yeah.
And then another board member with the RSVP group, V stands for Vlasic Pickles.
Okay.
It's a family office. He and I are both on the board, and we collaborate, meaning that we have our own opinion on how the board ought to work. Only one time did I raise my hand and say, this particular issue that we were discussing I want that to be a shareholder vote. Not, there's 7 people on the board, not a hand in the air, but a shareholder vote. Well, Kevin and I had 52% of the shares. So,
but you're outvoted on the board if they wanted a different direction.
We would have outvoted the rest.
Okay.
Because we had
from the
ownership,
shareholder perspective.
From a shareholder
not
perspective,
from the board
perspective.
That
was 54%.
Okay.
So that ruled the day.
So, a question.
So, but the point of all of that, you mentioned the investors. The point of getting on the board, and the point of my being upset with other SPEs that I was invested in arm's length, is I was not getting enough information. Well, if you're on the board, you're going to get more information.
And you're helping steer the strategy.
Right. Make decisions, and so on.
So
and that gets back to the investors.
Yeah. So would you say, the strategy of getting on the boards, was that more of a split away of starting your own angel group so that there was a different style of management? Or was that something that you feel like you learned from a failed startup of like, I need to be more involved, I need to have more oversight, safeguarding the investment?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay.
I wasn't really intending to start a Tempo SPE Group. I was merely upset of not getting enough information for Dave Romenesko.
Right. Okay.
And many of these people who were invested were my friends. And, I wasn't getting enough information. So I got myself to be a manager of ABC, for instance, Advanced Battery Concepts. And in that, I got more information for me and on behalf of all the investors. 20% of the company is not a small amount of the company. And then I keep them informed. So it really was a lack of information. So if you're an investor in Raytheon, what does Raytheon make? Do you know what Raytheon makes?
A lot of in the defense industry,
they Patriot
make a whole
missiles.
Lot of, right? Sure, yeah.
So we're all arm's length investors, and you invest in that because it's free cash flow is positive and high, profitability is positive and high in an industry, the defense industry, that right now, they're cranking because the missiles for the Patriot missile, they need more of them. They make a lot of other stuff too, but in any event. You invest in them because they had a good product in a good market, and they own a sizable portion of that market with competition. But they win the day by the best quality product. So the same thing has to happen in startups. Apple was a startup once.
Right.
It didn't have the iPhone, from the beginning. So
right.
it all they created, the first computer, and then they created I forget what they called it, a music little
the iPod.
The iPod,
yes.
And then the iPad and the iPhone. I guess everything is i.
Yeah, right.
And that you keep growing on, but you do that once they went public as a arm's length investor. If
right.
you didn't get enough information, you just sell your shares,
right?
Or you don't buy them in the beginning.
Right.
In the case of startup investors, when you give that money away, you are investing in a company, but that money is not coming back until it either has an exit or an IPO, or the money is gone and it's gone bankrupt. I think those are the only three features.
Options,
If you have an IPO, what it can come back is as dividends. But by and large, you need information if you want to invest more. These companies always come back and ask for more because all startups are broke.
Yeah.
So if the way I run my business is I'll invest first myself. I'll put 10 grand in or whatever, and they say they have certain milestones they're going to meet. Did they meet those milestones? Yes or no? Were they late on them? Perhaps. But if they still meet them, that's still a yes. Because did I always meet my milestones when we were intrapreneuring at Dow Corning on time, at the level? No. But if we kept on going, the board of directors would say, "Hey, I get it. Here's another $1 million for an extruder." And that's how it works. So you have to accept that it is the milestones that are attractive, the direction of the milestones. How are they going to build that business? How are they going to get into the marketplace? You have to answer all of those questions. If the startup people are answering those questions, then I would offer this company to my 109 people, and you invite them to a Zoom meeting. I of course asked the founder, I'd like, I've got these 109 people who might be able to supply you a few bucks. I'd like you to provide a pitch to them, and we record it. Then that follow-on email to the whole crowd goes again, because not everybody has their time available, right?
Right.
So you follow on with the recording, the pitch deck. I always invest when I make an offer to make it available to other investors. I always invest.
It's only
every
the ones
time
that have hit your level of due diligence that
Correct.
interest you, essentially, so that you can probably, I assume, speak on behalf of it better to your group of investors. You're going to have to
Correct.
believe in it first. Right?
And then I get enough money. Then I ask the founders, I've brought a lot of money to you. I believe I need to be on your board to continue to get information for investors. Because when you come back again and ask for money, an investor is not going to invest if they have not gotten information.
Yeah.
So
Right.
follow-on investing means follow-on information.
Yeah.
And if that information is failing, I've got one of my 10 that it's in a shaky situation, and I keep talking with them about EBITDA, because this one happens to be a sales in the medical area. It's all about EBITDA, and you've blown it, so you got to fix it. And because you're not going to get any more money from my group until you fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. So how much would you attribute that to? Like, I realize the mentality of they're always going to ask for more money. And part of that, I suppose, is an effect of the cause being the landscape of startups. What many founders don't realize when they're first-time founders as well is you can create this beautiful business plan, but the chances that you're going to follow it A to Z, as Erin Strang, when she was on here, so eloquently put, is about 0% of businesses follow that business plan from A to Z. Because when you get out in the market and you face some realities, now an important characteristic or skill that the leadership or management needs to possess is how to adapt, to continue on towards that same goal and mission, but adapt, which sometimes causes schedules to run behind, things to become a little bit more expensive. So
Yeah, if you can't adapt, you're dead.
Right.
So people look at Apple and Microsoft. They both came out in the early '80s, and and now they're trillions of dollars, and they seem to think that it goes up like that. Yeah. Well, it doesn't. It goes
right.
all over the place, but its root mean square line is up.
Yeah.
And when it operates in that fashion, then meaning that they're meeting or exceeding their milestones that they said beforehand will work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, only God knows the future, but you need to adapt to get those milestones in your pocket and bring on more additional ones.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like it's a means to the ends, so to speak, of you have to keep those same goals and milestones in place, but you might have to adapt your strategy as far as how you're going to achieve them once you've realized some realities in the market. So just pivoting a little bit here, as far as you've had a lot of experience in portfolio building, everything from Tempo Wealth, which is more the traditional investments, and what you're doing in angel investment. And my understanding from a little bit of our previous communication is diversity you find is critically important in angel investing. Why does that matter so much?
Like in conventional investing for your own portfolio, you cannot predict the future by wanting to put all your money in one basket. Mm-hmm. So put all your money in a bigger basket filled with multiple eggs. Mm-hmm. And then we just had Easter. Color those eggs this way and color that egg that way and pay attention to that egg this way. And the whole basket then is colorful. Mm-hmm. So what in conventional investing, you invest in U.S. stocks, small, medium, and large. We always used ETFs, exchange-traded mutual funds, small, medium, and large. Invest in some international, again, ETFs. If you have a particular interest in Japan, good place to invest. You can get an ETF that's focused only on Japan. Mm-hmm. But the point is that you invest in wide variety of assets. And then one of the things I like to do with clients as well as myself, I'm a little more risk oriented. So I have roughly 50% of our family portfolio in individual stocks, mm-hmm. growth-oriented individual stocks, mm-hmm. and then 50% of the assets in ETFs on that small, medium, large, and so on.
Okay.
So you get steady Eddie out of the ETFs. Mm-hmm. What is an ETF? It's made up of roughly 100 companies mm-hmm. within the exchange-traded mutual fund, 100 companies, and therefore, if God forbid, if Apple went to zero, mm-hmm. And it's one of 100, it wouldn't be that huge a deal.
So you're investing in one thing, and you're getting the diversity from that
within the ETF, and you're getting additional diversity by a wide variety of stocks. So too in the startup game, mm-hmm. I have 10 that I manage. There's others. But the 10 that I manage, meaning I manage the money and the information for going back and forth to clients, mm-hmm. to investors. And they range from a mechanical company like Human Hoist to a medical company like Peptinovo to a battery company like Advanced Battery Concepts to a number of them. And there's a story on all of them. One of them, Epsilon Imaging, we are in the midst of selling the company. Mm-hmm. Hope to have this completed by the end of the year. It's a software company that can measure individual muscle strain on the heart.
Oh, wow.
Using ultrasound to do that. It's terrific. In any event, all of these companies have a story. I'm on the boards of all of them, mm-hmm. and I get all that information. They all come back for more money. The easiest people to convince to give them more money are existing investors because they have already invested for a good reason, and now you're supplying additional reasons why they should reinvest and to grow the business. Peptinovo, this one, we're going to clinical trials, and what is that? It's a delivery system of existing chemotherapy drugs. Anybody who's been on chemotherapy know that they make you feel like crap. This delivery system takes away that bad feeling, and you can have a normal life but kill cancer.
Wow.
You deliver chemotherapy to kill the cancer, and you have no side effects.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's awesome.
Wow.
I mean, and it's more important than making a buck.
Yeah.
I'm a cancer survivor. My mom died of cancer at 57. Buddies have died of cancer. There's more reason to invest than just make a buck.
Yeah. Well, knowing some people, including my mother, that went through chemo as well, as the impact on people's lives by taking away those terrible side effects. So just even the people receiving the treatment, I mean, that's a wow, great technology.
Think there's a market for that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So let me back up a second here. Because you've done a lot in helping people with their portfolios, and so if I get the gist of what you're saying right now is, if I were to ask you, hey, I've got $100,000 to invest, where should I put that? You're going to respond with questions to try to assess my risk tolerance, to assess my interest, because my portfolio should essentially be customized to me.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Now, in the case of startups, nobody. Well, that's not true. I've got some who have written out $100,000 checks, but most of them are in a 10 to 25 kind of range. But nonetheless, these people are accredited investors. Now, what does an accredited investor mean? It means that they will self-identify as a person who has at least $1 million of liquefiable assets, like stocks and bonds and things, not your house. And what does that mean? That means that you are attesting that you are sophisticated enough to have $1 million
take your own
invested.
Risks. Yeah.
And you'll take your own risks. That is, you will ask questions appropriate to what you want to learn, and either the pitch or and therefore I get the responses from the company about your interests. That's the sort of service that I provide.
Okay.
And for that, in the operating agreement for these Tempo Peptinovo Investors LLC, I get 3% of the profits. I don't get anything for operational. I'm interested in the capital gains for myself.
Right.
But I want my friends not to be mad with me.
Right.
I want them to be successful. I want Peptinovo to be successful in killing cancer without side effects. And so that has more emotion than financial in my mind anyway. But in the case of ABC, the battery company, of course I want them to be successful too, the founder. But that's more of a mechanical thing. I mean, it's a commodity. Batteries are commodities.
Yeah.
So this is a new widget for the battery energy storage system, and we want that to be successful.
Sure. Okay. Well, I want to get into a little bit of those investments, in at least a few examples here. But one thing I want to ask first, given your scientific and inventor background, how do you tell the difference between a breakthrough technology and something that just sounds impressive?
Well, in my mind, breakthrough means I'm willing to invest in it. Now, there are different levels of breakthrough. Peptinovo, given that my mom died of breast cancer and lung cancer, that's not good. 57 is really young. I'm almost 78, so that was a long time ago that she died. And So this has some emotional cachet.
Mm-hmm.
But in case of human hoist, that's a mechanical chair and stool that's designed, and Boeing is our largest customer, John Deere as well, and Mack trucks, that sort of stuff. But it's designed to be able to lean back, and you're working on this vehicle in a comfortable position rather than standing up, bending at the back, reaching up, and you do that for 40 years, your back's going to be
you're
lousy.
Gonna have injuries. You're gonna sure.
Be on the floor, and your knees are going to go to hell. So these are solving particular problems.
Mm-hmm.
I like a portfolio. This is medical. This is mechanical. They both solve problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some are more emotional than the others, but that's still, you must have a market with a sizable, addressable market with a product that is cost effective, and I like patents to protect it from intruders, because what is a patent? A patent gives the owner a monopoly for 20 years from date of application.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of Peptinovo, you're always adding to your patent portfolio. Initially was the PALM. L stands for lipids, which is important, goes through the bloodstream. Cancer cells loves the lipids. It's food. Goes in, takes it down, eats the lipids out of the palm, opens up the paclitaxel chemotherapy, and that kills the cell. What a deal. Trojan horse.
Mm-hmm.
In any event, you have to make the palm, you have to manufacture that, you have to deliver it, and you can get patents all in that arena. So this has, we had another application that came forward. So here it is, 2026. That we now have patent protection till 2045.
Okay. Wow.
And somebody else can use some of the expired patents, I suppose, but our
you need the other pieces in order to produce it. Really,
exactly.
Right? So
you wind them up just like you're bringing in that beautiful rainbow trout.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just bring them in. So you need a portfolio of these things. I like to have all of them have patents. These both have patents involved. I like to have milestones to improve your patent positioning.
Mm-hmm.
ABC, the battery company, they have many patents to improve it. And once we get into the manufacturing side, we will be introducing new materials that I don't really want to talk about right now. But that will be to add to the patent life of the company.
Okay.
So a good. So we've got mechanical, we've got medical. I got a software. What's the name of the carvers, hamburgers? All of those little screens that let you know what is being offered and the price and so on. Those are handled by a central system over the cloud,
mm-hmm.
and they make a change on their nationally. Culvers will write out, here's a hamburger. Oh, gee, I think I want a bacon cheeseburger, and they put that on there at a different price, and that happens like that.
Right from the central location.
From a central location, it's all out.
Okay.
In the cloud. So that's a company called Scoop.
Okay.
So anyway, a portfolio of companies. Medical certainly is risky. Mechanics, in a sense, it's risky too, but
totally different sectors.
Totally
and
different
industries
sectors,
and types of solutions.
And really no different than your portfolio of stocks, ETFs, domestic, international.
Sure.
It's the same game.
Similar diversification there, right?
You're just much more risky in startups.
Yes,
because while one of my 10 have failed, my 36 that I've invested in total, 25 of them have been arm's length. 16 of them have failed. Only one of this group that I manage, and one I'd like to think that I've been providing some counsel to the boards to ensure that they keep going forward. I'm just one cog. Investing in startups is like you're a great baseball player, but then you go and take up golf for the first time, and guess what? You're going to be a lousy golfer.
Right.
Because if you swing at a golf ball like you swing at a baseball, that golf ball is going to go all different directions, and it's very humbling. These startups, I don't have all the answers. I have some answers, and I want to maintain focus. One of the things that I talk about in the boards, so like with Peptinovo, right now we are going down the path of a clinical trial using paclitaxel, which is the name of a chemotherapy. But Ren Holman, the founder of this and president, he's got 8 different chemotherapies that can work in this system. He's done the lab work. We are commercializing paclitaxel. We will commercialize later these, because what we anticipate out of this, so far things are going well, but if we get out of the clinical trial, we will license this paclitaxel technology. We'll get a nice, pretty check. That check then will be able to have sufficient money that investors no longer have to add more money. They've got, maybe they got $500 million for a license, and then that money is going to be invested in these 8 other chemotherapies, and then you just chug through it again.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a little bit of what you're saying there is part of the reason for the diversification is now you have different companies in different industries with different types of exits at different stages of success or prior to success. So, but we've only got a few minutes left now, so I want to ask a little bit more rapid questions and see. So let's talk about Human Hoist for a second. I love Human Hoist. I've gotten to help with that company a little bit with their, branding and website and so forth. Great company. You're also the chair of the board of Human Hoist.
Yes.
What was it that made you believe in that company?
Well, I was an initial investor in 2019, and in that, and I went direct. So I've got a line on the cap table. The company was had a really good product in what I believe was a good market, but I wasn't being managed very well, and the board at that time wasn't managing it very well.
Okay.
So I got myself on the board, and Lee Richards, who I'm sure you know, was on the board, and we collaborated and didn't like the way it was being run and managed. So we took it over.
So this is one that actually probably started as you invested in the idea, and there was a process of learning there, which you adapted and changed your relationship with how you continued investing in that, because you obviously now believe in both the product and the people there.
Yes.
You see success in that. Okay.
But the key to that, though, I might sound that I know a lot about how to make businesses work. Well, I know some about how to make businesses work, but I'm no CEO. Lee Richards was the CEO of a $1 billion company. And so he knows how to be a CEO.
Right.
I know a lot about technology, about patents, about entering markets and so on. So does Lee. So that's why we took it, and we helped the founders. We've expanded the product line now. And we're going down, expanding the distribution as well. So that's why we took it. We felt we had a better idea than where the management was taking it, that is, the board was taking it before.
Let me ask on another one that you mentioned here. Energy storage obviously is a massive market with many different processes and inventions within there. What made advanced battery concepts interesting enough for you to invest?
So when Ed Schaefer came to Blue Water Angels with the term is battery in a bucket, this is an advanced lead acid technology, and it's think of parallel plates that can deliver, unlike a conventional battery that's in your automobile. It looks the same, it's the same kind of box, but only about 40% of the capacity inside that box is delivering electrons.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of bipolar technology, you've got parallel paths, and because the electrons flow from positive to negative, and they flow in the same parallel direction, you get over 95% of the surface area of those squares in the thing that it delivers. So, I used to know a reasonable amount of batteries because I worked as a gas jockey in a service station, put batteries in cars. So I thought this was neat. Well, the problem is that automobiles are not your target market, because the auto industry are A, ruthless, B, they want it for free, and C, they want pay for new technology. So the question is where can you do better? Well, Tesla's got a really nice battery system. They're lithium iron phosphate batteries, and that's called motive. An automobile running around, or a tow motor, forklift truck raising it around. So are any of those? No, it's commodity. Sure, it's commodity, but we need a specialty. One division within Tesla is called the Battery Energy Storage Division. Now, it turns out I use Tesla extensively to mimic how things might work for ABC. Tesla sells $6.5 billion annually of lithium-ion batteries in the battery energy storage systems.
Wow. They
have a flaw, though. Maybe 1 out of 1 million modules, but they have a flaw, and that is with lithium-ion batteries, you can get what's called thermal runaway. That is, they heat up, and all chemical reactions have heat, but these things heat up and get into a runaway system. Every single lithium-ion battery in a battery energy storage system uses ventilation and air conditioning, and it has to always be operating because it has to suck some of the power out of that battery to operate that.
Keep it at temperature, right?
Keep it at a controlled temperature.
Okay.
But when their battery management system fails, then you can get a fire.
Yeah.
And lithium, those in the audience who are chemists know that lithium and sodium, there is no lithium or sodium metal on Earth ever. Why? Because lithium and sodium react with moisture in the air and make sodium hydroxide or lithium hydroxide, and it gives off hydrogen gas.
Okay.
That hydrogen gas, you got a battery, right? You got electricity. You got a spark. You get a fire. And that is the Achilles heel. Now, they have to have 100% accuracy in control, or either you get a fire or somebody dies.
Okay.
And one of our licensees in Australia is soon to be building a plant. Happened to have been a Samsung lithium battery was connected to a home, and that home was on the grid as well as on a solar panel. Thermal runaway occurred, fire occurred, 3 people died.
Wow.
And the utility said that we're not going to put any more lithium batteries in, and you're going to find a solution for this problem. And we're the solution.
Oh, that's great.
And it's because I used to be a fire scientist at Dow Corning, and I've been on this train for 4 years. It's now, that train is moving, and that I believe we still have to be cost effective, lower cost than lithium, but and we can get general battery energy storage systems with a cost effective solution. But I was doing some business development with I think Plainfield, Michigan, and they are considering putting in a battery energy storage system down there in rural land, and the commissioner lead said, we don't want it, because if they have a fire, they're going to put that fire out with a lot of water. That water is going to go in the groundwater, and it's going to wreck our area.
Yeah.
I says, have we got a solution for you?
Yeah. So it sounds like your excitement really is, because you really dove into the science of it, there is the technical differentiator from what the status quo is out there right now, which has a lot of safety issues. I suppose we're all familiar with it, with checking in at the airport, as you don't have any lithium ion bags or items in that bag, right? And that's for that very risk. But closing up here, we're running out of time. There's a few more questions I had for you. I really love this conversation. But if you could give one piece of advice to founders raising their first round of capital, what would it be?
Very well articulate the solution to a very well articulated problem in a well-known market that is large enough to support the growth you anticipate. If you can't get all of those ducks in an order with a positive answer, you're not going to get a dime from me.
That's very powerful. That's a well said summary of I mean, really the basics. I think I was at a pitch with you recently, and I saw, they're unable to answer very basic questions, which is, how are you going to raise money if you don't understand that scope? So.
Yeah, and that particular guy, I talked to him afterwards. Said, you're not going to get a dime out of this crowd. You didn't answer the question. Do you remember the question? Yeah. So it says, you've got to get that information.
Yeah.
And then you got to continue to get that information, because about every 6 months, you're going to be broke.
Yeah.
And you're going to be asking for more money. And you've got to continuously, what milestones are going to meet? How well did you meet them? What are your next milestones? How are you going to build this business?
Right. That makes great sense. So, Dave, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate having you here, and would love to potentially continue this and do a part 2. I only got to about half of my questions. To me, it's a fascinating subject. So
it's a lot of fun. You still have 24 hours in the day. You might spend 8 or 9 sleeping. You've got to fill the rest of them. And I hate boredom. I fear boredom. And this, I'm never bored.
Never bored. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Nice chatting with you.
What I appreciate about this conversation with Dave is how grounded it is in reality. There's a tendency to romanticize startups, to think it's all about big ideas, breakthrough technology, or the next great innovation. But what you hear from someone who has actually been in it across dozens of investments is something much more practical. It comes down to understanding the market, solving a real problem, and building a business that can actually sustain itself. Dave's perspective reinforces something we see over and over again. The product matters, but it's not enough. The market matters, the execution matters, and the ability to adapt when things didn't go according to plan might matter most of all. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway, is failure is not the exception in startups, it's the process. What separates those who succeed is not avoiding failure, but learning how to navigate it, refine your thinking, and make better decisions the next time around. From building materials and patents inside a global company to evaluating founders and ideas on the outside, Dave has seen both sides of what it takes to turn something from concept into reality. And that perspective is incredibly valuable for anyone trying to build something of their own. If you got value from this conversation, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, build wisely.